This video is about plurality with elimination voting systems, also known as instant runoff voting. In voting systems where voters only list their first choice, sometimes we've seen no candidate wins a majority. Here, a candidate would have needed at least 22 votes to have a majority, and no candidate has at least that many. A common class of voting systems has what's called a runoff in this situation. What this means is that we'll eliminate one or more candidates and then have another election with the remaining candidates. Here, since B got the fewest first place votes, we'll have a runoff between A and C. So what this means is voters come back to the polls for a second round of voting. And this time their only options are to vote for A or C. B was eliminated. Now what we'd expect to happen here is that anyone who voted for A would vote for A again, and anyone who voted for C would vote for C again. But people who voted for B might vote for A or might decide to vote for B. So then A is going to have 15 votes from the original people who voted for A, plus some number of voters from B who decided to choose A, and similarly C gets the 17 original voters who voted for C, plus however many voters for B decide to vote for C instead now that B is no longer an option. In the US, many primary elections function in this way. However, other countries like Australia have what's called an instant runoff. The idea is that voters will list not just their first choice, but their second, third, etc. choices in a preference ballot. And based on the preference ballots, you can infer what voters, let's say in the example before, voters who originally voted for B, what their second choice would have been. The idea is that this way you don't need to have voters come back to the polls for a second time. You can sort of automatically, instantly have the runoff just by using voters' listed second, third, etc. choices. One kind of instant runoff election is called plurality with elimination, and that's the one that we'll study in this class. We'll think of this as a workflow. First, voters submit their preference ballots, ranking all of the candidates from their first choice to their last choice. Then we ask, did any candidate get a majority of first choice votes? If the answer is yes, then that candidate is the winner. If the answer is no, then we're going to eliminate a candidate, and we eliminate the one with the fewest first choice votes. In doing so, we effectively bump up the remaining candidates. So, for example, if a voter had put X as their first choice and Y as their second choice, but then candidate X gets eliminated, then candidate Y gets bumped up to the first choice. Then with that candidate eliminated, we go back to the question, did any candidate get a majority of first choice votes? If the answer is yes, then that candidate's the winner. If not, then we need to eliminate another candidate. And we cycle on until there is a candidate who gets the majority. Let's go back to the previous example and think about what might have happened had the voting system been plurality with elimination, an instant runoff system. So instead of just listing voters' first choices, I'm going to write out a full preference schedule, the same one we've seen in previous examples. So in round one, we'll just look at people's first choices among the preference schedule rankings. So as we can see, 15 voters had A as their first choice. Here I'm looking at the first two columns. From the second two columns, 10 had B as their first choice, and from the last column, 17 had C as their first choice. Okay, so same votes as last time, no majority. And so since B had the fewest first place votes, B gets eliminated. And so we'll cross B off wherever it appears in the preference schedule. So now, since B was eliminated in that first column, for example, B was the second choice, but C essentially gets bumped up from third to second. In the third column, for example, B was ranked first, but A and C each move up from second and third to first and second. So in the second round, we'll again tally up voters' first choices now that B is eliminated. And now candidate A is ranked first, not only in the first two columns, but also in the third column because B was eliminated. And so A ends up with 23 first place votes. Similarly, candidate C ends up with 19 first place votes. Now A does have a majority, more than the 22 votes needed, and so A is the winner. One thing I'll point out is that we've now used this same preference ballot with 3 different voting systems: plurality voting system, board account, and now plurality with elimination. And each time we've had a different winner. So this is meant to highlight the differences between the different voting systems and the fact that they can produce different results. We're going to look at one more example now with 4 candidates. As you can see, there are a lot of possible orderings for 4 candidates, K, M, S, and W. I'm going to kind of skim through the math and mostly just talk about the process here. So in the first round, let's tally up how many first place votes each of the candidates has. So I'll highlight in yellow all of the voters who had K as their first choice. In blue, all of the voters who had M as their first choice. In green, all of the voters who had S as their first choice. And in red, all of the voters who had W as their first choice. So you can see I've done all of the addition for us, and this is how the numbers added up. We can see that W has the most votes. W has the plurality, but does W have a majority? Well, there were 8,976 votes total, and so a candidate would need 4,489 votes to have a majority, which no candidate has. So there's no majority, and therefore we're going to eliminate the candidate with the fewest first place votes, and that's S. So we'll go ahead and cross out S where it appears in the preference schedule above. All right, let's see what happens in the second round now. So only the candidates K, M, and W remain. So let's count up how many votes K has now that S has been eliminated. So K gets all of its original votes, but then it also gets some votes where the voter had originally had S as their first choice, but now K gets bumped up to first choice. So that's these 2 columns right here. Adding up all of these, we get 3,030. All right, let's do the same thing for M. M gets all of his original votes, along with these 2 columns, which were voters who had S as their first choice, and then M gets bumped up after S is eliminated. Okay, adding these up, M gets 2,603 votes. By the same logic, W is going to get all of the rest of the votes, which ends up being a total of 3,343. So once again, there's no majority, and so we're going to eliminate the candidate with the fewest first place votes, which is M in this case. So now I've got to go through and cross out all of the M's in the preference schedule above. Okay, now we're in the third round, and in this case there's only 2 candidates, K and W. Since there's only 2, we're sort of guaranteed that one of them is going to get at least half of the votes, so we should have a majority winner. Okay, counting up the votes for K one more time. And I've just got to be careful to only highlight the columns where K is ranked above W, where K is the highest remaining candidate left. So I've got to look through carefully, highlight the correct columns, and we end up with 4,615. And if I did things right, all of the rest of them should have W as the highest remaining candidate. And so W ends up with 4,361. Okay, so now finally we have a majority winner. K has the majority of votes, and so that means that K is the winner. So some features of this voting system are that it's sort of hard to vote strategically in a voting system like this. It's possible, but it's hard to anticipate exactly how this complicated process is going to shake out. Another feature is that it doesn't really hurt to have 2 similar candidates in the race. And so this makes it harder for political parties to strategize about which candidate to select. These are sort of good qualities, and many people who study voting theory really like this voting system. They think that it's often the best voting system in a lot of cases. However, there's one thing I haven't told you about this example that we just looked at, and that's that this is an actual example of how the voting shook out in Burlington, Vermont's 2009 mayoral election. So Burlington uses instant runoff system, just like we've been studying. And with only a few minor liberties taken, this is how people voted in that election. For a little bit of context, candidate M was the Democratic candidate, candidate W was the Republican candidate, K was the progressive candidate and also the incumbent, and then S was independent. This actually helps explain the transition from the second round to the third round pretty well, because candidates K and M were both liberal-minded candidates, or Liberal Party candidates anyway, while W was the Conservative Party candidate. So it makes sense that most of the voters who voted for M would have had K as their next choice after M. You can think of this 2603 in the second round as being split up between candidates K and W, and it turned out that most of that 2603 went to candidate K because of how voters ranked their candidates. So this was Burlington's voting system. Everyone knew the voting system ahead of time, everyone played by the rules, so it's hard to make an argument that the voting system itself was unfair. However, people were angry. People who voted for W, for example, you can imagine that they would be angry because, as you can see in the initial round of voting, W was the plurality winner. However, another group of voters that was angry that might not be so obvious is the people who voted for M. This is counterintuitive because in each round of voting, M was behind K and K ended up winning. However, supporters of candidate M make the following claim. They say that head-to-head, candidate M would have beaten candidate K. So let's analyze that claim. I'm going to abbreviate this as H2H for head-to-head. And the way that I'm going to interpret this claim is that if the other candidates, if S and W had been eliminated, M would have beaten K. Another way to say that is that more voters had M ahead of K than K ahead of M. I'm going to highlight in yellow all of the columns corresponding to preference ballots where K was ahead of M, and I'll highlight in blue all of the preference ballots where M was ahead of K. So first of all, anybody who had K first, that's going to go in the K column. Anybody who had M first, that's going to go in the M column. But where it gets interesting is thinking about the rest of the columns. So in the next column, for example, K was ahead of M, and same thing for the column after that. And I'm just going to kind of carefully go through each column and see whether M was ranked before K or whether K was ranked before M. Tallying up the votes, we get 3908 for K and 5068 for M. So it seems like this claim is valid, that head-to-head M would have beaten K because more people ranked M ahead of K than vice versa. But in fact, much more is true. Let's look at the head-to-head matchup between M and S. If we go through the same process of highlighting columns based on whether M was ranked ahead of S or vice versa, we can add things up and see that M would have also beaten S head-to-head. Finally, we can do the same for M and W. And once again, M would have won head-to-head. So candidate M could make an even stronger statement than what I wrote originally. Really, candidate M would have beaten anyone head-to-head, any of the other three candidates. So when there's a candidate who would beat any of the other candidates head-to-head, we call that candidate a Condorcet candidate. Condorcet was a voting theorist, economist, political scientist who studied voting theory and came up with this idea of a candidate who beats anyone head-to-head, and yet still with some of these classic voting systems like instant runoff, they might still not end up being the winner. Condorcet made the argument that for a voting system to be considered fair, the Condorcet candidate would always have to win. And we can see here that even though M was the Condorcet candidate, even though M beat everyone to head-to-head, plurality with elimination voting system did not put M as the winner. We'll talk about this idea of a Condorcet candidate more in the next video, and we'll also study a voting system which always does have the Condorcet candidate as the winner if there is one.